Hey, what's up, family? I hope everybody's year is starting off on the right foot. I was actually thinking earlier today about what prevents us from meeting our goals, whatever they are, especially when it comes to long-term goals or, where we see ourselves in the future. And we all know the basics. It takes hard work, consistency, sacrifice, and focus. And for the most part, goal oriented people apply these things. So, what explains why we still fall short sometimes? I think one of the things is the fact that once we've done all our legwork, we've gone to school, we got certified, we met the right people, um, we've laid the groundwork, we've laid the foundation. A lot of us fall short when it actually comes time to put ourselves out there, when we have to actually make that leap, when we have to jump, when we have to leave our jobs or leave our cities or tell everyone what we want to do, or actually just somehow disentangle ourselves from our current situation and go out there and take that risk. Risk uh, is the thing that I think holds a lot of us back. The fear of failure. Um, and that's something you really have to think about because a lot of fear is irrational. And when it comes to these types of fears, we have to learn how to conquer them or we'll be held back forever. And the tragedy about it is that we would have put in all that work and sacrifice and we were, inspired by this vision we have for ourselves. But we get to the edge, and when it comes time to make that leap, when it comes time to jump, we draw back and we settle. We settle back into the safety zone, the comfort zone, or mediocrity. And that's a shame because the truth is, you could be great. You were endowed with whatever gifts and talents and abilities you have, and that vision you had is there to pull you to that point in time. And it's real, it's legitimate. But because somewhere along the line, some seeds of fear were planted, when you got to the edge and it was time to do what you needed to do to finally get out there and put yourself out there in the world and be what you want to be, right there at that point, fear held you back. It reminds me of when I went bungee jumping. This video was actually on my timeline. I got all psyched up about it and I was excited. But as I started going high up in that tower and looking down, I was scared. And that excitement I had, you know, being all psyched about it, it started to wane. So I had to start faking it to keep myself interested in jumping. I think it was like about 300 feet. So I'm trying to convince everybody and myself that I still want to do this. They strap me in, they put the helmet on me, I'm all tied up and everything. And when it was time to jump, I couldn't do it because I had my hand around this bar that you have there to help guide you to the end. And part of me wanted to jump. I'm looking down and I couldn't because every time I thought about doing it, my grip would just become tight. So the guy sat me down and they told me, man, you need to hurry up and do this or you're going to lose your money. You're going to lose your turn. But one thing they told me, they said, when you get to the edge, put your hands up. Don't even hang on to that thing right there. Just put your hands up in the air and you'll be able to make that leap. Because before I wanted to jump, but I was holding on to something. And every time I got close to it, my grip would get tighter. But when I let go of that, and then I walked to the edge and had my hands up in the air, I jumped. And I did it. I jumped. It was great. It was a wonderful experience. But I learned something that day. You can't go forward and make that leap of faith if you're still holding on to certain things. Some of us, a lot of us, most of us, have a great deal of potential. We have greatness in us. And we have the intelligence. We have the ability. We've done the work. We've put in years. We've sacrificed. But we're scared to finally take that one leap. We're scared to put ourselves out there. We're scared to go on our own. We are locked in our prisons. Sometimes our prisons are apathetic comfort zones, or the fearful safety zones that we're in. You know, comfort zones and safety zones are like prisons without bars. And we're scared. We know we can do it, but these images of fear start becoming conjured up in our minds. Listen, whatever you're holding on to, you got to let it go. If it's people, if it's some story about someone else who tried and they failed, if it's this thing that comes upon you from childhood when people said you couldn't do this and they called you names, if that little boy or little girl surfaces as soon as you try to do something, you got to let that go. If it's a relationship where you were pretty much pummeled psychologically, you got to let that go. Because if you don't let that stuff go, it's going to keep you from your destiny. And you're going to settle for less. You're going to sell yourself short. And you're going to spend the rest of your life explaining to everybody why you didn't make that move. And it's going to be a lie. And in the process, you're going to be lying to yourself. And you're going to say things like, I guess it just wasn't for me. And it was for you. So this year, look at what you're holding on to and let it go. Because in reality, it's holding on to you. It's holding you back. It's keeping you from greatness. Remember this. This is one of my favorite sayings. The fear of failure will lock you in a prison of mediocrity. Failure is not the worst thing. Failure is the time to learn. Because when you fail, there's no rule that says you can't try again. When you try again, you have knowledge from when you failed. So you're better equipped. So failure is a blessing. The only thing worse than failure is giving up. So the only thing that separates you right now from where you want to be is the excuse you give yourself why you don't want to take that risk.